Welcome to IDB, ladies and gentlemen. The iPhone X is out, it is released, it is shipping to everyone, and there are a lot of great things inside of this new flagship device. We are going to go in depth, tear down, find 25 of the top features in the iPhone X. Not only that, we're going to take a look at what differs between the iPhone X and the iPhone 8. So we're going to look at all the shared features first, and then jump into the ones that are exclusive to Apple's top-of-the-line iPhone. Before we get going into all of the great stuff, I want to talk about first one of our sponsors for this video, which is Kadabe. They are a great case manufacturer that kind of specializes in slim, minimalistic, sleek designs. Even one of their most protective cases, which is this blue one that we're looking at, can withstand drops up to 10 feet, and yet it is still super slim. I've been testing them out for a while. I really like all of them, especially their super slim cases that pretty much are more like skins that you can remove, like this kind of frosted one here. They fit on like a glove, but they still have a little bit of texture to them. So not only do they just add a little bit to your phone for protection, for scratches, it also adds a little bit of extra grip. You can find out all about them at the link below in the description. So the first shared feature between the iPhone X and the iPhone 8 is the new storage capacities. The iPhone X comes in two options, 64 gigs or 256. Especially with a phone this expensive, it's very nice that they did not start off the storage with 16 or 32 gigs, because that would be pretty unreasonable. So even at the base model, you get 64. We next have up the portrait lighting. Currently in beta, portrait lighting allows you to adjust special lighting effects for any portrait photos, whether selfies taken with the front-facing camera or with the rear-facing camera. You can apply them when you're taking the photo, or you can do so retroactively. Unfortunately though, they do not work with portrait photos that were taken on a previous phone. So I have portrait photos from the 7, those are not going to apply here on the 10 with the portrait lighting. We also have fast charge on the iPhone X, which means using a compatible Lightning to USB-C cable and an appropriate wall charger, you can power up 50% of your iPhone X's battery in just 30 minutes. That's pretty great to get a lot of charge really quick. Unfortunately, you do have to have that USB-C Lightning cable and a quite powerful USB-C wall charger to actually get that benefit. Since we're talking about charging, next up is wireless charging. You can now charge your iPhone X wirelessly using a Qi-compatible charging pad. The iPhone X and the iPhone 8 have glass backs, which makes this thing possible. And doing so, you can charge at 5 watts of power currently, but in the future, you will be able to charge at 7.5 watts of power, which is definitely a little bit better as far as how fast your phone is going to charge, because it's still relatively slow. You should see that speed increase later with an update from Apple. There is a new 3-core Apple-designed GPU in the iPhone X. This is going to be great for all sorts of things, basically just anything graphics intensive. It's going to make everything work a lot better, especially with the new technologies that they've developed, like Metal 2, that allow applications and games to take full advantage of that GPU. Games, photo editing applications, and even AR is going to be definitely improved and a lot smoother on the iPhone X. It also comes along with the new A11 Bionic. The A11 Bionic is a custom designed chip from Apple that is an absolute beast. It has 4 efficiency cores that are 70% faster than the A10 Fusion and 2 high performance cores that are 25% faster. And of course, it can jump between them depending on what it's working on, whether editing photos or working in some video editing application like clips. The A11 Fusion processor, or A11 Bionic processor, also includes the updated M11 Motion coprocessor. This coprocessor is used for pretty much anything in the background dealing with motion or tracking. So we working with maps or your steps or any activities, or even third-party applications that may use it for stuff in the background like running, like the Nike Plus Run Club application. Baked in, we also have the latest version of Bluetooth, version 5. Version 5 is a whole lot faster, can transmit a lot more data, and has a much larger range. It has twice the data transfer speed of version 4.2 and can increase the capacity by 800%. It is also 4 times longer, which is going to be great, especially for Internet of Things. Though you do need to have compatible Bluetooth 5 devices to really take advantage of it. You're not going to see it retroactively apply to existing Bluetooth devices that you already own. The 2017 iPhones are also the first iPhones to offer a true tone display. This is Apple's adaptive technology that'll adjust the tint, the shade, the color of your screen based on the ambient light. So if you're someplace that has more warm lights, it'll make the screen a little bit warmer. If you're outside and the light's a little bit more blue, it'll adjust things to be more natural. Basically, it tries to blend the screen in with your atmosphere and make it easier on your eyes. This combined with night shift is a pretty powerful combination. The newest iPhones are also now capable of playing HDR content. So anything you have that is HDR, whether it is a movie you've purchased from iTunes or something from Netflix or Amazon Prime Video, any of those that support Dolby Vision or HDR10 are going to look exceptional on the new iPhone. Colors pop dramatically and you see a lot more increased detail in lower light scenes. While the iPhone 8 also can display this HDR content, it is not a truly HDR display, which means anything else is not going to be HDR. But on the iPhone 10, anything like HDR images that you've taken, those are going to look fantastic on here, better than any other iPhone. The iPhone 10 still has the quad LED True Tone flash from the past, but now it has slow sync. So slow sync combines a slow shutter speed and a short strobe pulse. It's useful in really low light situations when you want a properly exposed brighter foreground subject with a properly exposed background. It is also 2 times more uniform in its flash, helping to reduce hotspots. While the resolution is technically the same on the iPhone X's cameras, there's a lot of under the hood kind of improvements going on. For instance, it has a new larger sensor which can take in more light. It has a faster sensor as well, deeper pixels, and a new color filter. All of that combined with the hardware accelerated noise reduction, you're going to get drastically improved photos, especially in lower light. On the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, you could do slow-mo, but you were limited to 1080p at 120 frames a second. Now on the iPhone 10, you can shoot slow motion at 1080p and 240 frames per second, so twice the amount of frames in that same time span. We also saw improvements to just regular video recording as well. It has been bumped up as far as its possible resolution. You have several new options for 4K. Previously, you could shoot 4K at 30 frames a second. Now you can shoot 4K at 24 or 4K at 60 frames per second. To adjust those frame rates, you simply go into the settings app on your new iPhone 10, go down to the camera settings, and here you can see record video and what the default is, as well as what the slow motion option is. Make your selections, and anytime you jump into the camera app, it'll use these defaults as its appropriate frame rates. Keep in mind, as you bump up these resolutions and the slow-mo times, you are going to be taking up a lot more storage on your phone. So I would really only recommend jumping up to 240 frames per second and 60 frames per second of 1080 or 4K if you got that larger storage option. One thing that you might notice pretty quickly is the new speakers. They're pretty much the same as they were before. There's one on the bottom and one in the earpiece, but they're a lot louder and significantly improved than they have been in the past. I can actually feel the phone almost vibrating in my hand as these explosions are happening in Deadpool. It also feels more universal. Before, even though there was technically stereo sound, it felt like I was still getting more out of the bottom of the phone, but now it feels a lot more evened out and it doesn't feel as heavy towards one end of the phone. It definitely feels more stereo in its audio performance. Now we're going to transition to the unique features for the iPhone 10 that are exclusive just to the iPhone 10 and no other iPhone, starting off with the brand new 5-point-inch display. It is an entirely new display. It is an OLED display. It has HDR. It is edge-to-edge with a bit of a bezel around there, and a new higher pixel density of 458 ppi. That means everything on your screen is going to look super sharp, and the blacks are going to look really, really black because it is OLED, and it has a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio compared to other iPhones where it's only 1,300:1. If you look here at the bottom of my phone, you can see some of those blacks and how they pretty much blend in exactly with the bezels going around it. To accompany this new beautiful display, we have a new feature for the screen, which is tap to wake. This is really, really handy to wake up your phone without really having to do too much. You don't have to pick it up or do anything like you had in the past. Before we had raise to wake, which you could just raise your phone to wake it up, but now you don't even have to do that. You literally can just tap on it with your finger, with your knuckle. It's really handy to be able to wake up your phone, and it'll even unlock now thanks to Face ID. That Face ID will just boom, let you in, so it's a lot easier to access your phone. So we have that brand new beautiful display with tap to wake. We also have an entirely new design for this phone. This phone looks pretty different in many ways compared to every other phone out there. It loses the home button on the bottom, has an elongated power button. The camera modules are now vertically aligned instead. We have the new true depth camera system there along the front. Along the backside, it is now all glass, and around the edges, we have actually medical grade stainless steel. As far as size goes, it is a much larger display than the iPhone 7 or the iPhone 8, but it's smaller in size than the iPhone 8 Plus. Since we lose that home button, we have to have some new gestures to accomplish some familiar tasks. For instance, swiping up from the bottom will allow you to access the home screen, but previously you just tapped on the home button. You can also pull up halfway and pause, and that'll access the app switcher, which previously used to be a double tap on the home button. Of course, because we have these new gestures for dealing with getting to the home screen, Control Center has been moved, and that is now accessible from the top right hand corner. Just swipe down from that right notch and you're into Control Center. Swiping down from the center or from the left will access your notifications. You can also slide left or right on that bottom bar to access your recently used apps. Now, it can be a bit annoying if you have to get to your flashlight quickly. Before, you could just open Control Center and tap on flashlight, but it doesn't work when it's towards the top. So now they've added a flashlight button right to your lock screen. Simply deep press to access 3D touch and enable the flashlight right from your lock screen without having to do anything or unlock your phone. Now, we have already alluded to this previously using that true depth camera system that is right there on the front of your phone. That is very important because without that home button, we've had to replace Touch ID with something else, and that is Face ID. Using Face ID, you can access any of your apps, autofill passwords in Safari, and straight up unlock your phone. Even use it for Apple Pay. Developers can also access this facial recognition stuff and use it in their apps, like Snapchat for their face filters. Apple has also utilized it in many different ways, and one of those ways is Animoji. This is a really cute way to animate emojis based on what you're talking and your facial movements. They use that true depth camera system to map your face, and as you talk, as you move your mouth, as you blink, as you raise your eyebrows, as you shake your head, all of that is captured in an emoji. And then you can share those emojis right here in the iMessages application. You can use them as stickers by just dragging them onto your conversation, and you can even export them out and save them as little videos. You can do a whole bunch then by sharing them to Twitter or Snapchat or wherever else you want to share these little videos or caricatures that you've created using that facial ID recognition from the true depth camera system. That front-facing camera is useful for more than just animating piles of poo. You can also use it to take portrait modes now. Previously, this was exclusive to the rear-facing camera on the Plus model, but now there's a new portrait mode right here on the front-facing camera, so all of your selfies are going to look better than ever. And of course, it works with that portrait lighting, which is currently in beta. It can add some really cool effects to your photos, such as stage light. The rear cameras got a few other improvements that we did not talk about before because they're exclusive here to the iPhone 10. And they both kind of deal with that telelens, which is the 2x zoom lens on your phone. It now has a wider 2.4 aperture compared to the 2.8 aperture had in the past. This is going to help drastically improve low light photos for that telelens and for portrait mode. That second lens also now has optical image stabilization. So this is going to help once more for low light situations because there's going to be less movement in your hand. It's going to be able to stabilize this using actual movements in the camera lens. These two improvements to that telelens combined with that hardware accelerated noise reduction and everything else we saw improvements for the camera, there are a lot of great things going on for it. So there you have it, 25 great features here on the iPhone 10. I'd like to once again thank you to our sponsors, Kadabe. They make these great, sleek, minimalistic, modern cases for the iPhone 10 as well as many other handsets. You can find information below for them as well as all of the other features that we covered today in this video. To learn more, check out IDB for the full read-through. Go ahead and subscribe, and until next time, this is Andrew for IDB.